Hey Alicia, how are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm good.
Very good. Good morning. Where is home?
We are
BC?
in British Columbia, Canada.
That's
Yeah.
right. So you're 3 hours behind us. It's
Yeah.
still in the morning.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw on Instagram you were pregnant.
I
How far are you?
I'm actually just over eight weeks now, or 8 months. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eight weeks versus 8 months. There's a bit of a difference there, but yeah,
Yeah. You
eight
had that
months.
post in June, right? Where you're holding up your
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So January, early January.
yeah. Yeah, I'm a proud dad, grandpa for four little munchkins. The
Oh
last
yeah.
two came together. Both my daughters are had their babies always 5 or 6 days apart.
Yeah. Oh wow.
The first group, yeah, so they live together and they raise them together. So
Yeah.
is this
That's
your
nice.
first or your second?
First.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
good luck.
Thank you.
Are you still on the horse?
Yes, actually, I was just riding last
Wow.
week, so not quite as much, not quite as adventurous, but I'm still
Yeah.
riding.
So none of young horses breaking in,
No,
stuff
none
like
of that right now.
that. So today we want to talk a little bit about reflex points and how they create physical and psychological damage.
Hmm.
What made you pick this particular topic?
I just feel like it's something that not many saddle creators cover. And I feel like because there's so much more to saddle fitting than what we think, it's more than just, wither clearance and seat size. So I think this would be a very important topic for people to learn more about, as well as myself.
hmm So, um, my dad taught physics and math, and not everybody is a rocket in either of the topics. Math is for some people pretty difficult, or physics. And I remember when I asked him once, "So, Dad, how you do it when you have so many kids and you want to make sure you get your curriculum through and everybody learns it?" He says, "Well, sometimes you have to give examples." So, and I started to do this a lot when people talk to me, how come so many different people have saddle fitting opinions? We talked about that last time, right?
Hmm.
Opinions like belly buttons. Everybody has a belly button,
Yeah.
everybody has an opinion. I think it's just simple because people have different philosophies or different um, expectation of a saddle fit. For example, if I'm a polo player and I lean way on one side and trying to hit the ball, right? I don't want that saddle to roll with me.
Hmm.
So for me, I have to be hanging off the side and the saddle better doesn't roll. If it stays put, that's fitting. For a person who rides Lane Fox or Tennessee Walker, okay, I want to sit in the saddle what puts me way in the back of the saddle. Like those saddles are anywhere from 19 inch to 26 inches long. They're massive.
Yeah.
Right? And they're designed so the rider sits over the lumbar, horses get a false elevation, and then the shoulder can come back. And for them, it's a good fit if the saddle doesn't slide forward and puts the rider really far back over the area they need to sit or want to sit. So you can see everybody has a different understanding what is fit. For some people, where does it place you? For other people, what does the saddle do when I put extreme um, rotation on the saddle? And then we have the rider itself who doesn't do extreme sports. It says, well, a good saddle doesn't shave me, hurt me, rub me, let me do my job without fighting it.
Hmm.
And most of the time when people say, who teaches riding lesson, oh, a good saddle fitting is if the rider can follow my words and do the exercises I require her or him in the saddle without the saddle blocking him. Okay, I want that saddle to allow the rider to move in the saddle to give the most important aid is the seat. And last but not least, we have saddles where more for paraplegics, but you see them often in the Olympic level. They have high cantles, the back is literally that high in dressage, and the knee rolls, they're massive. When you ride towards the judge, you can't even see the thigh. It's like literally that size.
Yeah.
So, and for them, fit is if I'm sitting locked and load in the saddle. Like I have my thigh locked, my cantle locked, and I will not move. So I can ride the big trot or whatever. So you can see you have all these different opinions. When people talk to us saddle fitting, and they're not in the extreme sport, I like to believe the majority of the people like to think about their horse first. And they want saddle fitting from the horse's point of view, which I'm going to cover now. And I will discuss with you what the horses feel. And to give you an example, when we wear shoes, backpacks, clothes, any type of clothes, we put it on and we feel comfortable in it.
Yeah.
And so baggy it is, so more comfortable I am. But if I need clothes to do sports, I don't want baggy stuff where if I play tennis or if I play soccer or football, look at the American or Canadian football player.
Yeah.
They have tidy whities on, right? So they don't have baggy exercise pants on.
Yeah.
So if we riding is a sport, sure you could say, yeah, but I'm only a pleasure rider. I only go up and down the hill. Well, if you do ride, walk, trot, canter, you will have transitions. And if you don't dismount your horse every time you go around a tree or go around the corner, you're bending the horse with you sitting on top. So I compare that a lot to a hiker who has a backpack. Sure, it's nice loosey-goosey, but if you go up and down the hill and the stuff in your backpack moves from one side to the other and the straps start chafing, you don't like that backpack, right? So the trigger points I talk about the horse is very, very, very simple. We talked last time what the soldiers used to do, right? They went to the end of the mane, they went 8 inches down, and they looked at the back of the flank, the rein line, and between those two lines, they folded the blanket. So if you go back to the first line and you go 7 inches down and then 1 inch forward, you come to a spot what is approximately 1 inch in 1 square inch, which is so remarkable and so vital, so important, that in my opinion, everybody should know what that is. And I'm very skeptic, and I didn't believe it, even though I read it from different veterinarians and different chiropractors and different body workers. They call it the lung meridian point. So it says, well, what is it? Well, if you saddle, jumping saddle, general purpose saddle, western saddle, or dressage saddle, what slides forward, if your saddle presses on that, the horses have very fast, high risk of ulcers, such as gut or stomach, up to colics. Come on, from a saddle? No way. I didn't believe that one bit. So then you read it a couple more times and somebody else says it. And then I really wanted to get to the bottom of this. So I spoke to a veterinarian who does acupuncture chiropractic, says, can you show me where that bladder meridian point 13 is? It calls BL13. So he showed me first this picture, which I'd like to share with you. Okay, so he showed me this. It says most people who do acupuncture, and when we talk about the respiratory area, this here is pressured by the girth, if the girth doesn't fit right. And this is the spot I was talking about, BL13, bladder meridian point 13. Okay, and you can find it if you go down 8 inches and the end of the mane and go 1 inch forward. And then he says, so I have a heart monitor here. It measures the pulse. So what I want you to do is squish something. We talked about the last time too, the pressure. But it's a great pressure, it's a lemon pressure. So for you folks who haven't listened to the last one, let me quick reiterate it. We all squished a lemon to make grape juice, so there's a lot of pressure required. And if you get a grape, what you make wine of, right? They're like tiny round. If you squish that, they explode. But it's much easier to squish that than a lemon. Okay, now I know what grape pressure is. So he says, go ahead, and I want you to push on that spot and look at the heart monitor and start pushing no more than grape pressure. So I have a pretty good idea how much that is. And I could see how the pulse rise. He says, now I want you to go 1 inch behind that and push as hard as you want. Don't bend your fingers. Don't use a fingernail, right? But go at least as hard as lemon pressure, right? The horse was looking around and says, what are you poking me for? But the heart rate showed nothing.
Wow.
Then I went above that spot. I got in front of the spot. Everywhere I pushed hard, nothing. And then I went on that spot again and instantly, zzz. So he says, when we do acupuncture, we have what we call the bladder meridian line. Okay. Another veterinarian gave me this little horse, and all these points are acupuncture points.
Oh, wow.
And then there is one, that's the bladder meridian point 13. So if your saddle slides forward, or you have a saddle, a Western saddle, okay, what has these longer bars through the front. So here's a Western saddle, you know, this is a different tree, has a plastic here and a different kind of plastic on the bottom, but the shape, design, close, right? So this is called the front flare. And that spot would be approximately here, right? In front of that fork right here.
Yeah.
And on the Western saddle, sorry, on the English saddle, let me see if I have one here. Okay, so if we look at your tree, that stirrup bar, if you follow that, wherever that stirrup bar, and go forward, okay, where your saddle ends, 1 inch forward, that would be the saddle, the D-ring is. So if you have a saddle that slides forward, now you're on, okay? So if you have a Western saddle, sorry, if you have a saddle like this one, that most of the time irritates it because it's already pointing forward. Look at the difference between this tree point and this tree point. See how it goes backwards versus forward?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, you say, well, if that pressure, okay, the heart rate goes up, why would companies make saddles with forward-facing tree points? All army saddles and all Western saddles always go backwards because they say, well, when the horses move and look at the scapula of the horse's movement, okay, you don't want to interfere with that.
No.
Okay? It makes sense. So over all the history books, what you can find on saddles hundreds and hundreds of years ago, never went there and go forward. Today, we have unfortunately a lot of companies who make them straight down or forward. So let's say you have one of those saddles that goes straight down or forward, or you have one that goes backwards, like a Western saddle, but it slides forward and presses on. Here's why they get colic or ulcer. So I ask him, okay, I see that the heart rate goes on, but how does that relate to ulcer, or how would that cause colic? He says, well, flight animals, they always need to feel, I have enough air, enough oxygen to run away from the predator. Okay. Still didn't connect the dots, right? So he says, same like humans, when the heart rate artificial rises, okay, then the blood gets a lot of cortisol. And when you have a lot of cortisol level in your blood, that's how they measure in medicine, human medicine, as well as in veterinary medicine, you have stress. So when people really bug you and your blood pressure goes up, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm so angry. And imagine this happens all the time, right? Somewhere you get really stressed about that. So you don't want to get angry all the time. So a horse, when it hits that spot, the heart rate rises, artificial. He hasn't done a single step. He just sits there on the cross tie and it's ready to be tacked up, right? So he's already stressing. So heart rate goes up, high cortisol level. And as a rider, I feel it like, he's a little lazy off the leg. He starts to refuse. Oh my God, he can't even hold the canter. Or, God, he's really not, I feel it. He's sucking back, you know, he's marching. He's like, come on, let's go. So They will go, you know, and any rider can buy any kind of a whip and sharp spurs. I know not you because you do the whole no harm, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who do that, right? And people who such as like train with you and more in tune to the horses, they pretty much can feel it, you know, what is it? And then you try to figure it out. And I remember when I was working towards my first European championship and as a 3-day event rider, you know, my horse started to, I trained in the morning, I trained in the afternoon. Back then we still have roads and tracks and the steeplechase. Today they don't do that in 3-day eventing anymore. They don't have steeplechase. But you work on condition. And just like an endurance rider, you have time checks. And if the heart rate is too high, right, you get pulled.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't figure out. And we tried everything. Oh, it's in nutrition. Oh, maybe he doesn't roll up properly over his feet or his shoes. He needs special shoes, right? So only to find out 20 years later, my saddle properly pinched that lung meridian point. So this is from all the 14 points horses have on the body on each side. That point is probably the worst. Why? Because the horse will go. And the horse rider who is not as intuitive as you or as people who are not using force, you know, they make them somehow go and boom, before you know, you can see it, you know.
Yeah.
So good warning signs are the horse is not fluffing, right? You don't want to give him sugar and fake stuff that he has full, you know. A horse must chew. That's why they eat 20 out of 24 hours, they eat 17 hours. They chew all the time because that chewing creates the saliva, what breaks the acid down in the gut and stomach, right? So this constant chewing creates the saliva. If I ride and my horse is, after no more than 3 minutes, still has dry lips, he's sucking back. Something is holding his air or sucking back, right? So a horse, what accepts a bit, is soft through the jaw, through the pole. You know, they keep chewing. That's in their nature. I don't need to make a horse chew when I ride. If the horse doesn't chew, he has something stuck. I got to figure this out. So a good thing is 2 things. Number 1, I have a little video camera on the tripod, and I ride around and I see if I have nobody, if I ride by myself, right? So I can videotape this, or I can ask somebody to look, or I just stop and look down. You know, there's different ways how you can check it.
Yeah.
So that's the chewing. Is he chewing? Is he soft in the pole? Then the other check is when I get a saddle. Let me see if I have one here. It's, let's say I have an English saddle or Western. On an English saddle, it's this D-ring there. Okay, most English saddle have a D-ring. So another way to check is put that saddle loose on the horse. Boom, no pad, no girth. Yes, you can keep your leathers on, but it just sits there. It hangs off the horse. So now pretend my fingers is the withers. So we have that saddle off the withers. Okay, it's not sitting on. And then you want to see how much space is on the side. Okay, so if the withers, I'm going to hold the saddle and put my fingers here just to demonstrate. If I put my pen in here, see how the pen doesn't slide down and it's stuck here? I know for sure, as soon as I put the girth on, as soon as I put the rider down, it will come down a little bit, and that gets really pinched. So the way it should feel is like this. You put your pen in it and think about Western. This would be the concho. And you see how I can easily get my fingers, my pen between my finger, which simulates the withers, and the D-ring. If I don't have that, I know for a fact that will cause that pinching. Now, it's not a reactive situation like he will bite you. It is something like, here comes a comparison. I don't know if you ever had that. You said, oh, the shoe feels a little uncomfortable, but I'm okay with this. I can deal with this. And then you take it off and you notice you got a blister.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't immediately, it was a little uncomfortable, but wasn't immediately uncomfortable. And then once the blister is open, oh my God, then everything is annoying, every touch, right? So that's in comparison how the horse feels on this lung meridian point. It doesn't give you a refusal, right? The only thing he gives you is a dry mouth, right? So if he doesn't chew right away, here's a good example. What often, and I want to go as far and go to the word horse abusers, but for those people who look a little bit more, oh, I got 8 horses to ride, I got to go, sack, 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 sack. I don't have time to give the horse the time to warm up. I got to get going here. Most of the time, their comment would be, after 20 minutes, he's fine, and then I get him to chew. Well, it takes actually 20 minutes to make that reflex point numb. So one of the best advice I ever got from Dr. Tracy Turner, who's a professor at the University of Minnesota, he says, don't wait when you analyze a saddle fitting while the horse moves. Don't wait until they're warmed up.
Yeah.
Because the horse doesn't say in the wild, excuse me, lioness, I got to do some stretches. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Right? They
Exactly.
go from one, boom, go. And yes, I get it. In the wild, the horse moves around all the time, and not everybody has the luxury of having the horses in large paddocks. Sometimes the horse is in a small confinement, let's say 12 by 12 feet. Sometimes smaller, sometimes bigger. My point is, yes, when horses don't get a lot of walkouts or got to stay in stall a lot, of course they're a little stiff. But a saddle, okay, you don't need to ride the horse numb. The saddle will always show you a problem in the first 8 circles, right? So longer you ride, the easier is to hide pain or to hide an issue. So if I'm taking my finger here and I dig in here with my fingernail, right now it's very, very, very uncomfortable, right? And you can see where I dug my fingernail in here. So after a while, I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
It gets numb. And let's talk about what happened when it gets numb. Well, you've ridden with 20 minutes with a horse under high stress, no chewing, no saliva, acid built up, you wouldn't believe it. No counter medicine, no saliva, what breaks down the acid. The horse already ridden by predators, like humans are predators, they are prey, right? And they already, I get a lot of kisses and she strokes me and she loves me, right? But they're still figuring out what's going on here, right? So in order to keep that harmony, let's use the word harmony at the nicest level, I don't need the amplifier, which is the saddle, to amplify the nervousness, the stress the horse may experience. So one of these goals when we do these sessions, you and me, I feel you have the same goal as I am. We want to educate our audience to say, hey, there's a lot you can do. You can check, hey, those 14 points, has my saddle passed these 14 points? And when I keep checking the 14 points, I don't know if I showed you them last time, but I show it to you today again. Okay, they're right here. Okay, so there's 14 points. The lung meridian point is right there. Okay, so we're going to talk next time about the cartilage, if you like. We couldn't talk about the cranial nerve 11, the spinal nerves. They call it the bucking reflex points or the kidney, ovary, lumbar point. This here, very irritating, these 2 edges here, or these 2. Okay? So if your girth sits here, you don't hit those 2 spots. I can explain why horses trip, go pace, or go very short in the shoulder. And here I am trying all kinds of things with cavalettes, shortening, lengthening, riding dressage, renvers, travers. I'm trying to do everything just to get more shoulder freedom. But I have to wait 20 minutes before that spot is numb.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people buy like super expensive girths only to figure out a cheap neoprene, Wintec, string girth, something for $19, $20 is just as good as long as you have the right length and avoid those trigger points. So you got to think about, in the old days, they could not afford to conquer countries, to ride from A to B, chase the cows, if the horse had massive open girth sores.
Yeah.
Or had these girth irritations. So they worked often by common sense, right? And today marketing puts a lot of foggy information out there to sell a high product. The customer feels good because he or she says, I got only the best for my horse. So very much money. Just because it was a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that it was really the best, right? So that's how clever marketing can be sometimes. And that's why I say these reflex points, what we're going to talk about, if you desire so, and we continue, is something what is very easy to do, because besides the colic or the ulcers, that's tough on the horse.
Yeah.
Before they even have it, they're already freaking out, because they go, shit, I'm already out of air. And now a wolf comes or a lion, I wonder if I get away. So they're already freaking out internally, right? So what do? They're very hard to ride over the back. They're very hard to get the base of the neck up. And they're very hard to keep them straight because they're tippling a lot. What's going on? Because they get so nervous, they lose the connection to the rider. They lose okay, I trust you, you got me. So they have other things on their mind. Survival is number one. So it's that important. That's why when we talk about reflex points, I always talk about that. What type of saddles do you ride? Western, English?
I have a dressage saddle that I'm riding.
Okay.
Mainly English. I will eventually get a Western saddle, but mainly English, just because that's kind of the saddle that I'm riding in is the best one that I could afford at the time, kind of thing.
Super. And does it have long billets or short billets?
Longer.
And does it have the ability to move your billets in different spots? How many billets do you have? 2, 3, or 4?
I think it has 2.
Side,
2. Yeah.
And if the second one, does it have a little clip on the back where you can adjust it?
No.
Okay. So the reason why more and more companies do it, it's because sometimes the horse has, from what I see on your horses, they shape in the design of their shoulders. Some people say, oh, look how fat that horse is, or he's just that built. Yeah. He's just built a little bit rounder, right? Stockier.
Yeah.
And sometimes horses have just different muscle configurations. So when I look at the straps, what comes down on the girth, often there can be hindering. And that's why saddles were designed 160 years ago by a U.S. colonel. The soldier was able to move the billets so they follow with the muscle fiber of the horse. So let me see if I have a picture to show you what I mean. There's one muscle what runs underneath the other muscle, which is the latissimus. So you can see here, this attaches back here. It goes to this dotted line, and it runs underneath these 3. This is the tricep. You see how that cross there?
Yeah.
So next time you go into a barn or you see a gate, sometimes you see wires or wood what crosses. And that gives the building, when it's windy, or the gate or the door, the stability. Okay, so when you put a cross in, then the gate or the roof is super strong. Same thing with packing saddles, army saddles, and some dressage saddles. So if a horse has these big tricep muscles and you cross the billets, all of a sudden that horse feels like, oh my God, he's really loose. Example, remember me and my examples? If I want to comb my hair, my bicep has to contract. If I make my arm straight, it's small. So if I would take, let's say, a strap out of nylon, okay, my spur strap, and I make it tight over my bicep, I can't comb my hair anymore. I need a brush with an extender handle and go like this, okay, because that muscle is restricted to contract. On the horse example, these three muscles, they're really, really, really big, right? They lift the upper arm and the shoulder in order for the horse not to trip. So sometimes my horse starts to trip, right? That muscle, sorry, that bone and that bone is connected by these three muscles and make this joint go. So if I train a horse and he gets bigger, or I have a horse like yours, sometimes you get more stability and more shoulder freedom when you girth with the muscle fiber. Example, if I want to have a super tight strap and put it behind my bicep, it doesn't matter how strong my strap is, my bicep cannot contract because the strap is behind that belly of the muscle. Anyway, we can talk about that next time, a little bit more about the girth. But the main part I wanted to talk today about was the lung meridian point.
Yeah.
And I hope my tips made sense and people now can look and feel how the pole is. And I can only stress, if you have that issue, get it fixed. There's multiple ways how you can fix it. You can fix it with, they call them shim pads. You can fix it on some saddles where you can adjust the saddles, even Western saddles. But if you don't fix it, you playing with fire, right? It's like you're putting blind nails in the end of the driveway. Eventually you're driving over a nail and have a flat tire.
Yeah.
Right? So don't underestimate how vital that is. Well, thank you very much for talking to you.
No problem. Thanks for joining again.
Yes, and all the best with your pregnancy.
Thank you.
You know already if it's a boy or girl?
Yeah, we're having a little boy.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
good.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we can chat again.
Right, for sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.